Hey everyone, it's Comics Villain and welcome to Villain Talks. So today we're going to be talking about this whole Sony Marvel Spider-Man deal and what went wrong apparently. There's a lot to talk about and we're going to get into that. So yeah, this is fascinating. So way back, not I shouldn't say too long ago, but around the time Civil War was coming out, Sony and Marvel were able to finalize a deal to allow Spider-Man to be used by Marvel, and also for Marvel to actually help produce, help make the Spider-Man movies, the two that had come out. And what was important about them was, I guess, their connection to the Avengers, their connection to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's really what brought in the money, if anything. Not to say Spider-Man can't do a good job on his own. He's done so in the past. But you can do a lot better of a job. You can bring out more of these films, and I would imagine you'd have a lot less trouble dealing with things. But could be a greed issue, could be something else. I don't know. Let's find out. Sony has officially decided to take their ball and go home. As initially reported by Deadline and later confirmed by Variety, Sony is considering ending their agreement with Marvel Studios to share the Spider-Man character in the MCU. Since his introduction in Captain America: Civil War, the Tom Holland version of the character has appeared in 2 solo films, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Spider-Man: Far From Home, and 2 Avengers films, Infinity War, Endgame. Let's see. Spawning a new love and exciting creative period for one of Marvel's most beloved characters. But the deal was always on shaky ground, and many wondered how long it could continue for. Before we move forward to untangle this twisted web that's been woven, perhaps it's helpful to go backward and figure it out. Ended that a little too early. And figure out how we all got here to start. Although that past is perhaps just as tangled as the present and future of the character. So let's see. I got to go through all this weird stuff with this. So they're trying to tell us a little about all that's going on. Under the terms of this agreement, Sony would continue to pay for and have final creative control of any sort of future Marvel film. But Marvel Studios would produce the film and serve as creative lead. This meant Kevin Feige and his expert team would have the chance to shape the tone and style, pick the cast, and integrate the character into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. Meanwhile, Sony could still develop spin-offs, Hello Venom, Hello Jared Leto as Morbius, and animated movies, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and such. The decision was met with praise from both fans and critics, a shrewd business decision that benefited all parties. And it did. So Spider-Man: Homecoming made $880 million, almost $1 billion. Meanwhile, Spider-Man: Far From Home just crossed the $1 billion worldwide mark, making it the most successful Spider-Man movie ever, which isn't saying... I shouldn't say that, but it's not saying much considering that Captain Marvel, of all films, also got $1 billion, and maybe that has nothing at all to do with the Avengers films that have built up things far more so than any other film franchise. I mean, it's a completely different route than superhero movies have gone. So it's been building up, and there's a lot of reason for people to want to, reinvest their time and money back into this because there's something you get out of it. You get to continue it. So, yeah. Director John Watts breathed new life into a character that had been rebooted a shocking 3 times in 15 years, while Tom Holland's performance as the titular character gained tons of acclaim and was the emotional center of Avengers: Infinity War's most devastating scene. Everything seemed to be going well. Which brings us to yesterday's news. According to the Deadline report, here we go, Disney and Sony haven't been able to settle on an agreement. It's not to say they won't, but let's see. And it's all come down to money. After the success of Far From Home, it's said that Disney wants to change the terms of the financing agreement, opting for a 50-50 split, which makes more sense. But Sony and Disney would go Splitsville on funds needed to make the film, as well as sharing the profits of the film 50-50. As it stands now, Marvel receives all profit from merchandise sold, and roughly a 5% cut of the profits. So they do all that work and only get that much, huh? Profits from the box office totals on the film's first day of release. Sony, specifically, senior management team executives Tom Rothman and Tony Vincent, Tony V, apparently countered that deal should remain as is. But Disney didn't want to play ball. There also reportedly seems to be some concerns over Feige's current workload, not only overseeing Phase 4 in various Disney Plus series, which he is, but the overall inclusion of the recently acquired Fox properties, X-Men and Fantastic Four, into the MCU. So they did bring that in. They did bring all of that in. So he's got a lot on his plate. He already had a lot on his plate. I can only imagine things getting crazy now, and maybe them even losing a little control of some stuff and quality going down a bit as a result. Which that's bound to happen. You're going to stretch yourself out, and then you're going to start hiring other people to do maybe the same job you were doing for different projects so that you can focus more. But things are going to shift tonally, and people are going to notice it. What's interesting here is the amount of hubris from both parties involved. Sony seems content in thinking they are capable of doing it themselves. That's silly. Getting high on their success of both Venom and Into the Spider-Verse. Those are good films, but you gotta be careful. It's speculated that the studio still deals with Tom Holland and John Watts and producer Amy Pascal, so a lot of the core talent would still be in place, even without Feige. However, as Deadline is quick to note, Feige is on an absolutely unprecedented run right now. Over the last decade, he's overseen 23 different movies, all without a single loss. Every single Marvel Studios film has opened in first place at box office. Their total combined profit is close to $27 billion, nearly $2 billion of which comes from both these MCU Spider-Man films. You really should think about that, Sony. And he produced what is now the highest grossing film in box office history in Avengers Endgame. I mean, if they're really only taking a 5% cut of the profits and Sony doesn't want to play ball, well, time to split. There's no comparison for that right now. It's a Herculean feat, the likes of which we may never see again, and it would absolutely benefit Sony to continue a relationship with someone who has such a deep understanding of what makes each of these characters work. A MCU without Spider-Man, a character that's been so pivotal and integral over the last few years, seems like a pretty bleak situation. Especially after getting 2 truly great movies in a row. Hell, the entire emotional core of Far From Home doesn't exist without Peter's compelling relationship with Tony Stark. Furthermore, the ending of that movie launched a new and legitimately exciting future for the character. One that would be great to see come to full fruition under the Feige's tenure. Well, I could easily see things happen like this. Spider-Man's in a different universe or something right now, right? Yeah. What a place to end things off at. Either they're going to continue with Tom Holland, which I could see, or they're going to reboot, or they're going to continue with the characters in that universe. I don't know. It's so hard to say, but they're going to have to figure some things out. They're going to have to do some stuff. They may even go the clone route. They can go and put in a real live action, Miles Morales. They can do Spider-Verse, a live action version. They can do a lot of things. The Variety piece seems a little more optimistic about the chances of negotiations resuming. While Sony attempted to downplay any reports of animosity in a tweet thread last night, which is something along these lines, right? Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We're disappointed but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as our lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on an IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance, and appreciate the path he had helped put us on, which we will continue. In any case, moving on. Are we about to see an Icarus moment? Oh, sorry, let's go back a little bit. Conspiracy theorists seem to think this news was floating to outlets in an attempt to garner public's ire and bring the two parties to an agreement. There's still a chance things could go through, I think. But regardless of how this plays out, it's not an understatement to say this feels like a real turning point in the history of Marvel Studios. Yeah, things should have kept going upward and going more positively. We had speed bumps. We had Captain Marvel and Endgame being a little bit of a speed bump, more so for the Captain Marvel aspect. But Endgame, now that I watched it like twice, I could really only bring myself to watch it twice. It's not a movie I like to watch entirely. It's literally just clips of things I like to watch about it. The rest of it's kind of sucky. And there might be fans that are like, diehard, I loved all of it. Great for you, and I don't judge you for that. I have my opinion, and that is simply this. The first half sucked in Endgame. The second half had clips that I could watch on YouTube and get about as much enjoyment or more than having to sit through and watch the entirety of that film. So that's just my opinion. Like talking about Captain America getting Thor's hammer Mjolnir, seeing Thor with both his hammer and axe. What else? The whole Hell Hydra scene, that was cool. Tony Stark seeing his dad, that was very interesting. Seeing the original Ant-Man helmet, that was very cool. There is a lot of stuff going on with that I liked, and I think a lot of other people liked. But it's literally a handful of scenes, handful of clips that you can easily find on YouTube and not have to sit through an extra 1 to 2 hours worth of film that was just, I don't know, a way to send off the actors that are going to be getting out of their contracts, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and so on. It's going to be weird going forward, to be honest. But anyway, let's get back to this. One parting thought. If Sony does decide they want to try and make it on their own, I'm pretty sure they could call some guys who helped make a really damn good Spider-Man movie last year to help them out. A live-action movie with the creative prowess of Into Spider-Verse. I'd like to see it. I'd be interested. I think Spider-Verse, comic-wise, if they were to adapt it, I think it could do a good job. And they have 3 actors that probably would love to work together. Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and of course Tom Holland. And I think that a lot of people would like to see it. Sony, get to it, man. Would I watch that? Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of good comedic fun to be had with those 3. So, in any case, guys, tell me what you thought about this. There's a lot to discuss. There's a heck of a lot to discuss. So, yeah. If you like the video, please like, share, and comment on what you think, and also hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Help me hit that 1,000 subscriber milestone. I'd love to start doing some live streams here and there more so. I am already doing some, just not easily. I'm doing them with the help of the PlayStation 4. So I'm streaming some games, doing talks, and also chatting a lot with everybody in the chat there. And it's pretty fun. I hope you guys show up to those. They're very interesting, very unique. We get a lot talked about, and it's always a fun ride. There's a lot of good people on there. So guys, take care. Have a great rest of your day. And that's it.